Well, hello, welcome, Power Partners. It's our informational playground. It's Star Style. Be the star you are. Coming to the airwaves under the auspices of Be the Star You Are charity. I am your host, Cynthia Brian, and we are coming to you from the Voice America Network. This is the Empowerment Channel. On today's show, we're going to be going to the Mediterranean and talking about how California and Mediterranean countries have similar climates with mild, wet winters, warm, dry summers, glorious springs, and just gardens that are very, very similar. So, as the Goddess Gardener, I'm going to take you through a botanical journey through Provence. And if you want to see more photos, you'll have to go to my Substack at Mediterranean Medley, but you can just find me on Substack at Cynthia Brian. In segment two, the birdseed industry is worth about $3 billion. I would have never thought that. But when you care about your backyard birds, you want to give them high quality seeds and make sure your feeders and baths are clean because we want to maintain the health of our feathered friends. Well, the miracle moment for today, brought to you by Be the Star You Are charity. Visit Be the Star You Are at bethestaryouare.org. This is from Christian Dior. After women, flowers are the loveliest thing God has given the world. Okay, I say amen to that. Well, springtime in California is nothing short of magical. When I step outside of my door, the heady fragrances of jasmine mingling with wisteria envelopes me in a sensory delight. It's the same perfume that enchanted me in the picturesque fishing village of Cassis, which is nestled between the Calicanques and the Cap Canal in southern France. Sitting on a balcony overlooking the turquoise Mediterranean, I was struck by the familiar sights and scents. I mean, really identical blooms to those in my California garden. I mean, minus, of course, the lull of the waves and the salty smell of the sea, which I wish I had here because that really makes it so wonderful. Now, my connection to France runs deep. I've talked about it before. As a teenager, I spent a year studying at the University of Bordeaux, immersing myself in the language and the culture. And on this latest journey to Provence, I was reminded why California is considered the only state in the United States with a Mediterranean climate characterized by that mild, wet winters, warm, dry summers, and glorious springs, as I said at the top of the hour. And just like our California gardens, southern France's landscapes flourish with trees and fruits and herbs. Fig, olive, apple, cherry, pear trees were ubiquitous. Vineyards of grapes stretched endlessly, much like those in Napa Valley and elsewhere in California. And fields of lavender sway between the herbs like rosemary and sage, thyme, geranium, and parsley. A lot of them just spill over from baskets and windowsills. Now, one key difference that I noticed was how the French combat the brutal Mistral winds. The Mistral winds are these really cold, powerful gusts that whip through the Rhone River Valley in winter and spring. And while I was there, I felt them. And in response, vineyards in the region like Châteauneuf-du-Pape and Bourgogne prune their vines to under 18 inches in height. That was really a surprise to me because vines growing here on my property soar to 6 or 7 feet. There were always hectares of neon yellow rapeseed. It's grown to produce canola oil and it carpeted the countryside. And it really echoes our local wild mustard blooms. Both rapeseed and mustard are part of the brassica family, which also includes cabbage. So if you've ever eaten the wild mustard, it does have that peppery kind of cabbage taste, and it's wonderful in salads. Now, when I left California, my Western redbud had just begun to flower. And in France, these trees are called the Judas trees, and they have strikingly similar buds. There's a legend behind it. That legend is that when Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus, Judas hung himself from the branch of this tree, which they called the love tree. It's also called the Mediterranean redbud and it's part of the pea family. And if you look closely at the buds, they do resemble peas. So I really encourage you to check out my Substack, Cynthia Brian, at Cynthia Brian, because you'll get all these beautiful pictures from the Mediterranean. Now, in Arles, I wandered through Le Jardin de Maison de la Sainte d'Arles, and this is where Vincent van Gogh was a psychiatric patient. The translation is the Garden of the Hospital in Arles. So when we see La Maison, it doesn't always mean house, it can mean hospital. The garden depicted in his famous painting remains almost unchanged. I stood where he once stood to photograph the garden and his painting for a comparison. There was Virginia, pansies, iris, primroses. They were all flowering. And the central fountain from his painting was flowing. And when you put the two side by side, the photograph I took and the painting that was done by Van Gogh, it's just eerily similar. Now, tulips in various color patterns dotted courtyards, churchyards, and village squares. And my favorite combination was at the base of the collegiate church of Saint-Julien in Chalon-sur-Rhône, which was built in the 1300s. And what sets the French gardens apart from our California gardens is the abundance of ancient stone architecture, some over 2,000 years old, and they're all adorned with cascading blooms, wisteria in deep purples and lilacs and fragrant violet shades, and early budding roses spilled over ancient walls and iron fences in every town and village, from Avignon to Viviers to Grignon and beyond. Now, buttery yellow Lady Banksia roses were showstoppers on arbors throughout the region. Lenten roses, snowball plants, cherry laurels, hibiscus, snowmound spirea, lilies, petunias, succulents, and euphorbias added to the floral festival. At the bustling farmers' markets, which were in every little village, carts of vegetables fresh from the soil were earthy, bountiful, and flavorful. Everyone was raving about the asparagus and the strawberries. They were the biggest sellers, and the French were very excited that the asparagus and strawberries were in season because they tend to eat only in season, which is the way I like to cook as well. My journey through Provence was filled with botanical beauty, scrumptious cuisine, fine wines, and history lessons. Now, upon my return to California, I was reminded that we share the same Mediterranean gifts of climate and exquisite flowers and trees. And when I walk out my back door into my garden, springing in style to revisit my personal horticultural Mediterranean medley, I am once again in Provence. Only here, it is home. Yes, we women are lovely, and so are our flowers. And this spring, I am dreaming in French. Now, this is some of my Goddess Gardener guides for the month of May, if you are in a climate that is similar to Northern California. And some of these are really good to do just even no matter where you are. So for example, the first one, isolate new plants after purchasing and before introducing them to your garden to manage any pests. No matter where you buy a plant, it may have bugs. Plant early blooming native plants to offer a reliable food source for emerging pollinators. Mow grasses and weeds to a height of 3 inches or less. In most places here, it's no later than June 1st as required by the fire district, but check with your own fire district because wildfires are just imminent and they're happening literally all over the world now. You can bring nature indoors with the living plants. Fake plants just don't contribute to air quality or well-being. So bring a living plant inside. Make sure to clean bird feeders and allow a portion of your garden to be a little wild just to nourish the birds and the beneficial insects. Check pollen levels daily at pollen.com or use a weather app if you suffer from spring allergies. I usually don't, but this year they are really bad, and I just find my eyes are red and swollen, and I keep coughing and sneezing. Now add color and pollinators to your garden with heuchera, blue star, amsonia, rudbeckia, gaillardia, columbine, echinacea, milkweed, agastache, and coreopsis. And layer bulbs in a container to bring a delightful progression of blooms to your doorstep, your balcony, or your patio all season long. And that's something you can do no matter where you are in the world. Well, happy growing and happy gardening. This is Cynthia Brian, and this is Star Style Be the Star You Are. When I come back from break, I'll have a business bite, and then we're going to go and talk about the birds' backyard buffets and what we can do to help them. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Research has found that by asking for a larger order, it would increase your chances of acquiring a larger order. And why? Because buyers respond to a specific request more readily than just a vague, do you want to buy something? Instead, you could say with confidence, I suggest you'll improve your bottom line by purchasing 5 widgets instead of 3, because 5 widgets are less expensive, by each widget than the 3. So just be proactive with your sales force. Encourage them to think big when talking with customers. Make sure you have a list of the features and benefits of your products and a valid reason why buying a larger order will save your client money and help them grow their business. Just remember to ask and you shall receive. You are the star of your own performance. Turn your passions into profits. I'm Cynthia Brian with another business bite from Star Style. For more information, visit cynthiabrian.com. That's Cynthia Brian, Brian with an I.com. Well, in your backyard, there is a buffet for the birds. This is Star Style, Be the Star You Are. We're back. And I am Cynthia Brian, your host, your goddess gardener. Now, I just love my birds. I have lots and lots of feeders and lots of birds. And I have the Merlin app, which is so fun. You should find it. It's free on your phone. You can get it at the Apple Store, or if you have Android, you can get it, because all you can do is you can play it and it tells you what bird is singing. It seems like my whole garden is filled with bird song all the time, but feeding backyard birds is really simple. It just makes you happy. I mean, sometimes you can just toss some seeds on a tray or put some suet on a feeder and then watch the chickadees and the jays and the finches and a caravan of sparrows take up residence in your little paradise. Well, until they actually don't. So if you've had seeds go completely ignored, and that happens a lot, or you have suet blocks rot, and your good intentions are left to wither, you're not alone, because our backyard birds know a lot more than we do. And it turns out that they really want good bird seed or good places to be. The birdseed industry is worth about 3 billion, and not every brand is looking out for the birds. So a poor quality offering of feed will actually keep the birds away. And if you don't store your feed um, properly, or you don't clean your feeder, that can ruin even the tastiest and healthiest menu. So I want to give you some tips on how to ensure you're feeding birds nutritiously and safely. Now, the first thing is cheap bird seed mixes often contain little round rust-colored seeds called red Milo. And that's just a filler. And most bird species are not interested in that seed. The same thing goes for oats and wheat and canola seeds. Those are fillers too. So when you buy a big bag and you're getting a good deal, it seems like you're getting a good deal, but you actually might be paying for seeds that are useless. Corn and white millet, while not technically fillers, are preferred by ground feeding birds like mourning doves. And some cheap suet blocks are almost entirely corn and millet, and they are not a good option for the seed-seeking songbirds that you want to have at your feeders. Now, when you buy your feed, you should check the dates. At a big box, a hardware or pet food or grocery store, birdseed can stay there on the shelves for months and months. And the birdseed can go stale. And when it goes stale, it does not taste good. It's just like if you're eating stale bread or, moldy bread. So before you purchase a product, check for packaged on and the expiration dates. Higher end stores tend to offer more recent packaging dates for a fresher, longer lasting seed. And if you can't find dates at all on your seed, that is definitely a red flag. So you want to be careful there. Now, you want to choose natural ingredients. A bird food package, it should read kind of like a granola bar wrapper, and not like a box of Jello with all these questionable terms like, berry flavor. Splurging on high quality seed and suet blocks with ingredients like peanuts, almonds, sunflower seeds, it might cost about 3 times more, but it also brings 3 times as many birds to your yard. Also, just like the food that we like to eat, we need to observe food smell and texture. Spoiled birdseed doesn't always have a bad scent, so also look for strange texture or color or any kind of dumping, like the Nyler seeds, they are extra oily and they really spoil. Those are the ones that the little South African songbirds love. If you're wondering why your finches haven't started showing up anymore, it's probably why. Goldfinches are really picky to begin, and just to begin with, and they want fresh seed. You also have to keep your bird seed cool. If the bird seed was fresh when you bought it, keep it that way. You can store it in a cool, dark place, not out in a humid garage during the summer. Now, here's what I started doing with my bird seed because I buy a lot of bird seed and I feed a lot of birds. Is I got an old, it really is old. It's probably from the 70s or 80s. It is a metal ice chest so that the rats or mice can't get into it. And I fill that with birdseed and I keep it in a very cool place in the shed. And that's been a game changer because when I just would bring the sacks of feed home, then I would notice I'd go to pick up a bag and there'd be a hole in the bag because a little mouse or some creature, could be a raccoon, could be a rat, could be a squirrel, got into it. And that could contaminate your seed. So if you have the right storage conditions, you can buy in bulk, and that's what I do. If I like to buy bird seed, for a few months at a time. And I mean, if you have a freezer or something where you have space, you could also keep it there. But if you buy in bulk, break down the massive bag of seeds into smaller airtight containers because that way you'll have easy access when the time is right. Suet can be frozen too, just so you know. And then just about cleaning your feeders. So if you were to grab some trail mix from a community bag that hasn't been washed in months, you would just get really grossed out, right? Leftover bits of seeds and hulls, they can grow moldy. Droppings can accumulate on nearly every type of feeder. So you want to clean your feeders and then add fresh seed into the into the feeder because a a dirty feeder is a recipe for trouble. You want to clean your seed feeders roughly every 2 weeks, and you can use a mixture of hot water and vinegar or hot water and a little bit of bleach. And then as for hummingbird feeders, because I have tons of hummingbirds, they aren't attractive to just our fast flying friends. They also readily attract mold. So clean your hummingbird feeder every time you refill the nectar, or roughly twice a week. And just remember when you're filling your hummingbird feeder, I always boil the water. I add the sugar, but I do not add any red food coloring. You don't need to do that. And then another good thing you could do for your birds is just to make your own snacks. Just as you would with a home-cooked meal, when you craft bird food yourself, you know it's going to be fresh and you know where the ingredients came from. For example, one of the things I do for my birds is they just love dandelions and the dandelion flowers. So every morning I stroll around my garden hunting for dandelions, and then I have a plate that I put all the dandelions on. And it's like, as soon as I put that plate out, the birds know to come and get it. So that's something. If you go the homemade route, though, you don't want to add any additives. Don't add any food coloring or any salt. It's also important to offer a complete balanced diet. You can do peanut butter, lard, oats, and cornmeal. That is a backyard bird hit. That's a good one. And making it is fun, especially if you make it with kids. But be mindful about putting this out if you live where there are bears, like in Lake Tahoe or any place where there's bears, because bears like it too. Now, hummingbird nectar, as I said, should be made at home to avoid any unnecessary chemicals and dyes. And it's just 1 part sugar to 4 parts water, but I boil the water to make sure it's clean. And as I said in my Mediterranean medley about letting a little bit of your yard go wild, that is really important. I mean, feeders provide only a portion of birds' diets, so you can do a lot for the birds without going to the store. Just leave a little bit of your yard messy, let a few weeds and grasses grow, maybe on a side yard or something, and don't rake the leaves. And that wildness will attract insects, which are a fabulous food source for the birds. And it also provides a potential warmth and cover for the birds. But the bottom line is, with a wide variety of seeds, insects, and plants on the menu, your backyard will be a bird-friendly smorgasbord, and it won't go stale. So invite the birds to a bird buffet. Well, you've been listening to Cynthia Brian, and this is Star Style, Be the Star You Are. Make sure you're tuned in to Voice America every week, the Empowerment Channel, with me, Cynthia Brian, and also on Sundays to Express Yourself Teen Radio, where teens talk and the world's listen. We love to bring you some great advice and lifestyle, as well as some fun and success. You can change your life. You can make your dreams come true. To make a donation or to get involved with Be the Star You Are charity, please visit BeTheStarYouAre.org. If you're interested in more information about me or buying any of my books, visit CynthiaBrian.com. I have 11 books there on the website. You can get them directly. And when you buy from the Star Style store, you get a lot of extra goodies, and the money does go to Be the Star You Are. So it's a win-win-win. The money goes to charity. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, inform, amuse, and motivate. See beyond your physical being. Know you already are the star you dreamed of becoming. Cherish the past, dream of the future, and celebrate every moment of your life. And do try to read a book this week, because it is like a garden in your pocket. And until we get together next week and celebrate, remember that love always wins, kindness always prevails, and smiles will keep us happy. Be kind, be inclusive, tell the truth, live with integrity, embrace cultures, love unconditionally, encourage others, be generous, read, lead, succeed, communicate, collaborate, and innovate, and be your unapologetic, authentic self, because everyone counts. So I encourage you to go out into the world and be the star you are. Thank you so much from Star Style and me, Cynthia Brian, for joining me. Have a wonderful week, and we'll be together next Wednesday as well. Ciao for now.